SSG on defense and TSM on offense. Should be a lot of fun. Let's see what our first offensive band's going to be between these two. Are we going to have anything unorthodox? Not off the start. Habana coming into the ban phase. Not going to have her played for Villa. Just trying to get those impact tricks to work just a little bit better. Other offensive bands going to be the Jackal. TSM wants to get rid of that, as SSG was able to utilize that quite often to get rid of that roam game.
Other than that, taking a look at any of the other bands that are going to come up here, Mira is going to be our first defender band, so things following a pretty usual trend there. I would expect the second defender band to fall in line with what we normally get out of this map. Some of the defender bands don't stray too much from the meta right now. It's the attacker bands where things are a lot more open, and that certainly seems to be the case. We'll end up with a very normal Maestro band as our final one.
You can't blame them in that regard. It's either going to be Echo or Maestro. It's more or less pick your poison. And for all intents and purposes, personally speaking, I would lean towards the Maestro more just because of the gun and how annoying those bubbles can be to get rid of if you don't have the utility, if, you know, obviously someone's died early on or what have you. So with Echo, it's a little bit easier to deal with his Echo cam or his yokai cams, especially on a map like this where there is a lot of soft destruction through the flooring. IQ can be utilized. There's so many different ways to be able to handle that, but obviously he can still definitely be a nuisance.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the first round here and see what exactly we are in for on our Villa map. Take a look at SSG, see how they are going to try and come out on top of this one. They gave an offensive start as well here on Villa, which if things are going to go very similarly to how they went back on map number 1, could play out pretty well into their favor. Like I was saying in the pregame, a lot of this comes down to how the roam game is going to present itself. And hey guys, you see that at the top of your screen? We've got some new Pro League sets available in the game. Make sure you're going in to check those out. They're very cool. And for a limited time, a percentage of the proceeds goes to all of your favorite pro teams. Make sure you're jumping on that opportunity while it's still there.
Yeah, make sure you guys get those purchased. That way everyone can give you compliments on your skins inside of those kill cams. We all know you guys get those entry frags like TSM is going to need right here. Good roam game setup here from SSG. Got the Jaeger will my combo getting rocked as well, and the castle barricades as well. So SSG setting things up properly here on defense. I have to see how TSM wants to handle this one. They haven't had the best luck when it comes to roam clearing, but as we've seen from SSG, specifically on the last set that they played on this map up against Oxygen, it was a slow start for them, letting Oxygen get 4 rounds, but then firing immediately back and ended up actually taking Villa.
See TSM continue to play this out very slowly. SSG still doing some setup here as well. Fultz is going to position himself in the spot just outside of Asher there to see if he's going to be able to get anyone's peeking over towards Skylight, but probably not going to happen. Very rarely do we see that position being taken. So with that being said, Fultz will feel much safer to start swinging out. Take a much different position, a much more aggressive position, potentially against the players that are trying to hop into Master here too. He's smart to pull back on that one though. That's going to be maybe asking a little bit too much of himself to try and come out of that one alive, especially now with the extra breach happening on the inside of the closet and TSM starting to move forward with the clear here.
Well, TSM still good on time. Is just about to hit the halfway point, and usually that's the time where you can start sending roamers back or getting a little bit more aggressive, but it's actually going to be TSM to falter first here. Achieve now dead. Nitro Cell upstairs does a lot of damage to Bolo as TSM is all over the bathroom master side of the map. Still plenty of utility to be had and plenty of info game from Canadian downstairs. They're going to remove Bolo, but he's only been downed. 20 HP won't be exactly what he has when he is picked up, but it seems that they haven't been able to. Well, actually now they're able to finally secure him. Just worried about that vertical play.
Hard breach is going to be used to get them access, safe access I should say, to the statuary room, and with that they'll be free to do a little bit more reconstruction inside of that room itself to hopefully present some options for TSM to get a couple opening picks against the SSG roster. They're going to need to get through this process relatively quickly. Only 47 seconds left on the clock here, so there's not a lot of time for TSM to set up. They have to go fast. They need to get into position to execute very quickly in the next, I would say, 10 to 15 seconds. Otherwise, we're going to be looking at a round where they could very easily get locked out by just the standard hold from SSG. Big part of them getting access here is that hard breach, which goes off to the inside of a laundry without too much resistance. Now they've got a much cleaner path to hopefully warp themselves to the inside. There is counter reaction coming in from SSG that you still have a player over in the living room, and that player could pinch pretty aggressively against this if they're not careful. Bolo with a nice find, though, eliminates one position of that pinch by taking out Fultz, and hopefully makes things a lot better for TSM to try and work their way out. That time issue is starting to become a problem once again, though. The first attempt to plant immediately denied. Bolo does sneak off another kill from up on top, but is it enough? Doesn't seem to be the case. The bomb is dropped yet again, and SSG do eventually close it out on the timer.
Just too much intel there from the defense. If you guys saw it, Canadian ended up rotating downstairs to play out with the cardiac sensor to get all of that intel needed to shut down the entry from TSM. Bolo had a lot of kills there, but it was just not enough. The resurgence of SSG inside of the site ends up begging them that round. Nice roam clear from TSM, but again, was all in vain. We're headed towards Trophy Statuary Room to see if SSG can link rounds together. We're going to have a very similar setup here. We're more than likely going to be seeing that Jaeger will might combo for most of this map. Echo finally showing face here as well. And we're actually going to have a 6-pick for Canadian. 6 picking away from the Kaid, picking up the Clash. Not too worried about the wall denial. The Kaid really wouldn't have helped anyways, but oh, this is actually very big. 6-pick away from the Thatcher as well, picking up the IQ. So don't know exactly if they thought about it and were obviously saying, oh, well, they're more than likely going to 6-pick off of the Kaid. He's not a very good pick into Thatcher. So let's put Bolo on IQ, be able to find some of these electronics as well as a pretty damn good gun.
Definitely a good read from TSM, but it still means they're going to have to go up against a very annoying setup here from SSG, even beyond the Clash. Echo has the capability to really get in their way, and that's on top of both of the utility drain operators as well, between Rampy and Bosco there. So all of their flash is going to need to be used for the most part here in order to get them access to the site and try to land some of these frag grenades on either Canadian or another player in order to make this push a lot easier. A big portion of this is going to be based on where Canadian wants to play the Clash and specifically where he's going to look to delay. Let's take a look at where TSM is going to approach this. That'll probably dictate Canadian's playstyle quite a bit too.
I completely agree with you. We'll have to see if he's just going to mainly focus on Master, but again, as you said, it's going to really vary as to how TSM wants to handle things here. Seems as though they will set up one member of TSM on the Wolf hallway there right off of Trophy. Hopefully could find some success if somebody wants to rotate out, but SSG has been playing pretty close to the chest, not giving up too much. But with Canadian here, they are going to be able to get quite a bit of intels. A drone game from TSM runs in through Master, clears out the closet, and they also have Merc and Achieve downstairs, more than likely looking for what could possibly be anything from a Nitro Cell or a Pulse.
All right, got some breach working its way underneath of the floor panels here as Merc is going to take a position on the inside of Kitchen here. Be able to utilize that, trying to see if he can open up anything else. Achieved is also going to be playing with him, so quite a bit of top-down destruction here to hopefully make getting the wall knocked out a little bit easier, on top of potentially making Canadian's playstyle a little bit less comfortable for himself. Thankfully, he's got a good amount of flooring right now, which is going to be indestructible for himself. So as long as he doesn't need to move away from that specific area, he should be in an all right position. More nades being chucked out at the moment, but not finding much success with getting all that damage in there. You see a couple chunks on Bosco and Thingy Nade, but besides that, obviously no kills.
No exothermic down in the bottom right. Do they still have impacts to deny? They don't. Thinking Nade fresh out of those. Have to restock later on, but definitely not going to be in this round. Have to drive all the way back to base to pick those up. SSG still looking spry though, rotating their echo cams and everything else to be able to stunt TSM. Need to be able to prevent this plant from going down. Still plenty of utility to be had, especially with Canadian still on the field. 0 damage dealt to him. Doesn't seem like they really have a means to get rid of him either, especially with the Wamayan Jaeger combo in play. All the secondary utility for the most part has been burnt through.
See Achieve trying to line one up. Brute starts the clock on it. Unfortunately, he's missed the timer on this one in a big way. So once again, no damage going to be found. At least not nearly the damage that he was looking to get from that one. However, it does open up the possibility for TSM to start swinging towards Astro, which is a benefit in itself. Bosco ultimately will start to shut this down, however, as Bolo is going to be the first to fall on one of those swings, but he's also traded with a good position from Chala being taken just over on his own swing to the inside of Master Bath. Now, contesting the clash, obviously he's going to be very careful on this one, and in the other fight, Fultz and Achieved will trade blows with each other, leading to the death of Merc, and obviously Fultz brings us down into a 3v3. Geo with another entry being made, gets them access to Trophy and can start the plant, but Geo's incredibly low. One stray bullet will take him out. The problem for Rampy, he doesn't have the capability to swing in here right now. Achieve gets another kill. Rampy still not feeling the capability to swing into the site himself, and because of that, he'll be punished. Achieve rolls out once again and picks up the final kill. That's the immediate trade on the round from TSM to put it up to 1-1.
Beautifully done from TSM. Very good time management as well. Nice entry, taking over Astronomy, which seemed to be their only saving grace inside of that round. It was hotly contested inside of Statuary. Nice rotation from them. Great entry from Merc as well up those Astronomy stairs. So, for now, SSG is going to be shifting sites. Don't want to go back to Statuary Trophy, as TSM seems to have the keys to the castle on that one. Aviator Games up next for them, and we're still going to be rocking that Jaeger Mai. 6 pick for Canadian away from the clash, just showing face once again, but has other tricks up his sleeve. We'll have to see if it's possibly the ace with this Valkyrie. A little bit more intel game here, but we have been seeing the IQ play a lot here from Bolo, so that could be all in vain, especially with that Echo in play. This is a lot of electronics that he's going to be able to get rid of. There's so many spaces on this site specifically that Bolo will be able to work from underneath and get rid of ADSs, my discs, and what have you.
So, usual setup to start things off here with regards to the aviation hull, including that extended shield from Rampy right there. Fultz, of course, going to assist him with the double ADS. That's 4 grenades that Rampy doesn't have to worry about, and he can probably make it 6 with 2 of his discs that he'll more than likely try to throw out once the round begins. It'd be more than that, too, so it just all depends on how much Rampy wants to secure himself and how much he wants to potentially save for later on in the round to throw on the site.
Beautiful setup here from SSG. Rocking the main stairs setup with the shield as well as some ADSs. More than likely going to have some intel here to be able to slow them down. Canadian putting a slightly risky cam inside of Study, but obviously TSM is going to need to flip open that IQ gadget in order to find that, unless they are able to use their own vision. But TSM already clearing out downstairs, and this is exactly what they needed to do. Get some pressure down here, make it to where these rotations from SSG, even if there isn't any, are very difficult. So, almost a beautiful shot there from Rampy as he's dancing back and forth with the piano wall. TSM still having presence over towards this eastern side downstairs, and we're only 50 seconds in.
A lot of action potentially going to be happening soon here for very early on in the round, especially around that main stairs area that Stokes is just talking about there. Achieved just a little bit of final reconstruction here as he's going to smash himself over into Library. Not going to feel the need to push yet, but we will start seeing the discs begin to eat up pieces of utility, most notably a flashbang that was just chucked out there around those top stairs. You can see Bolo getting ready for the swing. He's obviously got to be very careful of the library hold here as well, but ultimately it's going to be Merc actually over here by Study that starts things out, taking out Fultz, even attributes himself a well played from his opponent.
That was one bullet in the head. That was a single tap. He could have killed him with literally anything in the game right there. That was extremely impressive from Merc. I don't exactly know where he died, but all I know is that he's dead, and that means that Fultz is going to have a bad time. Bosco now playing the top of main, still has those ADSs that they're going to have to burn through. TSM now worse for wear on this timer. Sub-minute 30. Are they worried about the man prone on the staircase? They are. Rampy gets one, but it's immediately traded back and forth. Bosco there to add insult to injury. Canadian finally working things out on a rotation, but he's only worked himself back towards site. TSM, last 2 remaining members at the top of main stairs. It's left up to the last remaining members of SSG as well, as we're on equal man count here, but 2 very important operators to have alive, specifically the Echo that can help them out quite a bit.
Mark waiting for his opportunity to try and go for a swing here. Time is going to start to get low, but in terms of siege time, still plenty of it to work with here. Only real negative is that Chala doesn't have a lot of that additional utility remaining. He's already deployed all of those air jabs, so nothing else to secure himself or Merc as they get ready to try and pinch from what looks like it's going to be two separate positions here. One going in from top red, the other one trying to go in through the bar door or study as far as I can tell. So 19 seconds left. Looks like the push is going to begin. Thinking already shutting down one of them with the elimination of Merc and a quick swing to the left to find the last one as well. Thinking with a fast double finishes off the round for SSG as they now claim the lead once again.
There was a lot of positive things from both squads here, but I think the thing that I want to talk about the most is that roam game from Canadian. Very intelligent, very, very high intelligence, excuse me, from Troy himself. Instead of going for that initial rotation downstairs, he instead chooses to play his life, rotates back towards astronomy and rotates upstairs to help his team on site. You're not as good, dead as you are alive, so you'd much rather have that gun up, and he was actually down into that 2v2. If he had made that rotation and died, then obviously that would have been a much worse situation for SSG. Amazing round from them and some good entry kills from TSM overall, just not enough when it came down to that 2v2.
Attackers need to locate and
Get ourselves back into the next round here. We're going to be heading
Did you read that? Clash player. Oh man, he's not respecting the shield main, man. Come on.
Some good banter in
You
the
see
chat
that,
room.
Valley? The shields don't matter. Just don't play shields. They're only allowed in competitive play. That's the only place. It's the only place.
Otherwise, it's
Not acceptable. If you play shields in ranked, you're the person I hate. I just want you to know that.
Don't hit the player, hit the game.
I know. Listen, I do that too. Okay, I'm more focused on the game when that happens. Anyway, I'm just like, why? Why? But no shields this time around for either squad, so it doesn't seem like we have too much of a talking point there. So we will shift things on. Still plenty of utility in the pockets of the defense as the round's already started. So Rampy setting up ADSs to make sure that no one gets blown up from a grenade or stunned out. Well, this primary utility still being used by all of these SSG members. Still discs for Foltz, mute jammers for Bosco. There's a lot still to go on.
Foltz got pushed back pretty quickly last time on this hold, so I would expect the same if TSM are going to approach it with the same number of players they did on the last round clear here, back when we played the site initially. We'll see if he's able to potentially extend the duel, if at all, though. And he's not even going to be alone this time either. There's a pretty heavy commitment up here to the upstairs hold at the moment with both Thinking Nate and Rampy also assisting. Rampy, of course, watching for the trophy connector rotate, seeing if anybody's going to try to push from 90. And then Thinking Nate watching from the Astro route to make sure nobody tries to wrap Foltz from the inside of Master Bath. And so obviously, as you guys can see, Foltz really doesn't have a whole lot of vision on that department. So he does need a little bit of extra help to make sure that he doesn't get overwhelmed.
Well, nice presence here from TSM, but the bad thing is that it's going to be read out, and that's the power of the pulse. And we talk about it a lot, but hey, there it goes once again. That's actually a nitro cell from upstairs. Is Thinking Nade puts that right on the tee. Takes out Shala, and that's a huge one. Air jab's now gone, but seems as though they're going to have still plenty of utility to handle this. Nice peek from Bolo there to take down Thinking Nade. Masterfully done inside of the Spectation as well. Thank you so much, Cyan. Rampy and the rest of the SSG squad still alive and well, though, as they take down Achieved, and this is getting all the more difficult for TSM.
A lot of members of SSG being sent to the basement, interestingly enough, right now. So you got two of their players, I think, roaming around there. Obviously, you would expect the Pulse to be down there, the vision that he gets, but he's got some additional assistance as well. So we're going to need more than likely get that in position closer to the site, maybe wrap them back up through the kitchen stairs soon enough here, because it looks like TSM is getting closer and closer to their execute point. As we inch closer and closer to zero time here. It's just a little bit more soft destruction, trying to give the members of SSG less and less room to play into. A good read into the strat right now is going to give Bosco the great potential to pick up an early kill. They know that they're going to try to wrap in for the hard breach, but unfortunately for Bosco, fails to read into that opening directly above him. So Bolo once again becomes death from above here, finds an easy pick onto him, keeps the numbers a bit closer here as TSM, unfortunately, they're still fighting a man down, but a lot more palatable than that 2v4 they otherwise would have been dealing with.
Well, it's a 2v2 on site as Canadian's still downstairs, but as you guys could see, this is where things get very difficult. Geo gets a very big entry kill. This is exactly what they need. Bolo shifted away from the upstairs, and that's exactly what he needed to do, is he needs to be overwatched. Rampy coming in from behind, but the door is still barricaded. See if Canadian has the intel that's needed to be able to assist them here. 2v2 into the post plant now. Very, very high on the timer. Still plenty of time to be had. Drone outs be able to assist them with some intel game if they can get it. Oh no, the pulse has been lit up now. Canadian dancing with death as it's Geo inside of sight on both ends. Is he going to be able to get the second one? Very low HP, but the ump can't do it this time. It's Bolo all over the scoreboard. A triple for him once again, but TSM able to claim the round.
Geo with just too much control over that post plant. Perfectly played by him to wait that out as long as possible, as well as getting some massive damage on the Canadian in addition to the kill he got, which sets up, of course, for the closeout in the 1v1 to be made that much easier. Once again, great play from Bolo on the top down as well there. Was doing a fantastic job of making sure that no one was able to get away in the event that they were flushed out by utility and sent into his crosshairs, watching all those top-down angles. He's been doing a fantastic job of that, and the same was done on the previous attempt to win that site, unfortunately with less success, but still that portion of it ended up being very impactful, just not enough to get the win.
Yeah, and as you were talking about, it's really been Bolo on these kitchen rounds that has made these even winnable for them. He's able to get so many picks from that vertical play. Granted, the kitchen area is very difficult to move through, as well as dining, obviously, when that vertical play is obviously being held. So we'll have to see if SSG has a counter for that besides just trying to slow him down upstairs. But for now, it seems to be the explosives route as 3 nitro cells are on the board. Last round, seeing quite a few trades up here, specifically inside of Astronomy. See if the battlegrounds be any different inside of round 5, but very similar setup here from SSG, and I don't see why they would vary at all. That last round coming down into a 2 versus 2 and just didn't fall on their side of the fence.
10 seconds to insertion.
All right, folks, another round, another setup here for SSG as they're getting closer and closer to losing this defensive half and flipping over to the attacking side here. I don't mean losing by points, by the way. Losing as they're not going to be on it anymore if anyone jumps on me. It's tied blue.
How dare you, John? How dare you? Hello, I'm a random guy that's going to tell you that.
I always have to clarify some of these things that I say mid-cast, just to, like, make sure no one freaks out over like a unfortunate word choice.
Listen, I am the king of unfortunate word choices. I know exactly what you're talking about. Don't worry about it. So we're gonna have Canadian starting things off on site this time instead of downstairs. But as you guys have seen, he's later transitioned to the basement to use this as more of an execution intel to help the defense in that regard. So we'll see if he follows similar courses here. Lamai as well as the Goyo upstairs for SSG. Slow beginnings here for TSM, not nearly as eccentric as we've seen prior.
Little rotate hold is being opened up to make the downstairs holds a bit easier. At the same time, the attackers are doing just the same. Merc opening up a very long angle to catch, well, what would have been, actually, never mind, I think it's on the basement stairs. Thought he was playing upstairs, but he wraps back around into the correct spot. Might have potentially gotten caught by that long angle there that Merc is currently trying to play into. Away from that, though, TSM once again keeping it very quiet at the beginning of this round. A lot of drone work still being done, of course, as you kind of expect within that first minute, 20 seconds or so, but that should begin to change now that we are getting closer to zero timer here. TSM will need to move into position to start executing, and it looks like they're not going to put as much presence on the top, at least to start. Might be doing a much more direct push this time and to try and get control away from SSG.
This is an amazing setup here from TSM. As you guys can see, they have Bolo as well as Merc holding the 2 rotations for the staircases that SSG desperately needs to get out of the basement. Their only avenue to leave right now is going to be red stairs, but Bolo's rotated away from pantry now, as he more than likely needs to get upstairs to play that vertical play again. It's been so influential throughout these kitchen rounds, but we still have plenty of site presence here. Nice read here from Troy as well. Get some good intel, but finally a kill happens from Merc, because he's been waiting for this one for a very long time.
Huge amount of patience being leveraged into that one. Canadian, though, going to be challenged, and he comes out the victor of not just 1, but 2 fights. Achieved and Bolo both go down. Merc also kicking some butt right now, though, as he's able to move in and take out Canadian. Finally trades that kill and puts us back on even footing. Down into a 3v3 here. All goes silent for the moment after that kill as both teams freeze up here. But it's TSM that needs to take action. They only have 25 seconds remaining, and unfortunately the first one to do so is going to be shut down by Bosco. Attempted the plant, being made at least to start there by Geo. He's gonna get off that though to pick up a kill as he eliminates Thinking Nade. We're back down into a 2v2. Bosco had incredibly low HP, but thankfully Rampy's come in to save the day, but no longer. He's immediately traded out. Now it's all gonna come down to time here. Merc has to commit himself to the plant, but no, he knows he's got his opponent low. He's gonna try to go for the kill. Instead, he can't get it done though. Bosco has the advantage on the angle, and more importantly, the M590 to get the job done. He's gonna end it in the favor of SSG as they take round number 5.
That is the most disgusting man alive. I just want you guys to, I want everyone to know, Boscoat is the most disgusting man alive. That was a ridiculous read by him to know that he would push through China or do anything of the sort off of that hot mark, and to transition back throughout the door, knowing where the vision was going to be from Merc all at the same time. That was so well done from Bosco. Hell of a read by him, and that's exactly why they're going to secure that round. Trophy statuary going to be the choice for SSG for their very last round on defense, so they're giving it up to the offensive side. TSM going to 6-pick away from the Thatcher, put Bolo back onto the IQ for this very last time.
Valkyrie is going to come into the play as well, which means that the IQ pick will be incredibly useful for quickly spotting out those cameras, deleting them, and removing that intel from SSG throughout the rest of the round. Setup again should be relatively straightforward here, especially looking at the operator lineup. I personally wouldn't expect anything too different from what you guys are used to when it comes to a trophy and statuary hold here. SSG are scrambling to try and get that 4th round onto the board so they can maintain a solid scoreline going on to the second half here. And as for TSM, they're fighting for close territory at 3-3. Be very much in the same position, but on defense. And at 3-3, TSM would probably feel comfortable to call themselves kind of ahead there, assuming that they're going to be expecting themselves to have a good start on defense.
Yeah. Looking back into that last round, though, before we get too hotly contested inside of round 6, there was a lot of counterplays going out there by both squads. Most notably, TSM adjusting to hold the staircases instead of, taking top control to utilize Bolo with the vertical play. And it almost ended up working there, as obviously it came down into a 1 versus 1, but SSG just a touch better. I really like what SSG did on their defense as well, keeping Canadian on site with that cardiac sensor, and he came up big inside of Tarps as well. I mean, there was so many good things by both of these squads. It's very hard to pick and choose who obviously had the better counter there. But TSM already hot on the trail of SSG on this roam game. They know somebody has to have some presence down here, but this time it's going to be the Jaeger of Rampy.
Rampy going to open up a tiny little punch hole, or bullet hole in this case, right there, to try and see if he's going to be able to catch anybody. Trying to get intel from the inside of the window there. Achieved in the meantime will start us off well for the folks on TSM yet again, as he's going to be able to find out Canadian before he can get any impact on this round and take him out. There was the opportunity for Rampy. Unfortunately, it is missed, and he's now going to run away. His tail tucked between his legs, try to hide for another fight, another day.
You can tell he's done that bullet hole once or twice. Only 2 bullets, and he's immediately lined up on the pantry door. But what else would you expect from professional players? Nice read there by him, though. Just Ash moving just a touch too fast, even for him. SSG still having a lot of presence side of astronomy. That's exactly what they're going to be needing to hold down. Nothing downstairs, at least for right now. We'll have to see if they try and rotate anyone. Rampy's still downstairs as well, all the way in the basement. Could possibly have a late rotation. He did a very good job of this on Theme Park, and I don't see why this time would be any different. Oh, very unfortunate.
Trick attempt from Thinking Nade, yeah. Doesn't end up working out there, as unfortunately it looks like it's a bit off the mark. So the hard breach attempt from Geo is successful. Second one potentially could still be thrown out too if they want to try and go for it here. But at the moment, there is a hold called on TSM's side. Trying to isolate out that player. I think that's the hold right now for Geo, and trying to put the second hard breach in. But it looks like the player who's in that position, Thinking Nade, has already been pushed back. Just spotted out there by the drones. They know he is holding over on that statue. Achieve going to go for another nade kill here as well. And it's not looking like he actually ended up throwing it, as I didn't see an explosion happen. Either that or just ended up completely missing and didn't impact any of the floor panels. Fultz will jump into the fray, though, as he's going to be able to pick up a kill, but immediately trades are found from TSM. Both Bolo and Merc picking up frags onto Bosco and Fultz. Just Rampy and Thinking Nade left in the fight here now. SSG don't have a lot of map control to work with. Aggression might have been the note in order to make this work, but so unfortunate. The timing for Thinking Nade looked away just when he was about to have a perfect angle onto one of the members of TSM. And on the exchange, he gets taken down with nothing to show for it. Same can be said for Rampy. He's also going to be eliminated relatively quickly here by Merc, and TSM will take solid control over the final round of the half.
Well, John, we're on the teeter-totter back and forth between these two squads. We'll have to see if switching sides has anything to do with it. But for that last round, masterfully done from TSM. SSG not able to get anything going on Trophy in their 2 attempts at the site, only going to games once, and they actually ended up winning that round. So apparently feeling as though the Trophy defense could definitely work, but were ill-advised.
Dining and Kitchen is the start point here for TSM's defense and SSG's attack. Obviously 3-3, not the end of the world for either team, but certainly TSM will be happy about that, given the usually defensive-sided nature of this map. You have a couple more 6 picks coming out, including a Lion onto Bosco and the Goyo for Geo.
All right, well, as we're waiting for the game to load up here.
Attackers need to locate and
1, 2. Okay, there we go. Now we can see stuff. That's what I'm talking about. Now we have stuff to talk about, chat. Here we go. We're going to have Fultz on the IQ this time around. No breaching charges, though. He's rocking the Claymore, which is a tad weird, especially with the Nomad on the board. So that's going to mean that the soft destruction game is all leaning onto Rampy. But we got something even more important to talk about. Bosco's on Lion, and that's an operator that we don't see too often. We see him mostly played on Coastline, mainly because the hard destruction and what you are required to have on Coastline really isn't all that much. It really does lean on your entry frags and your information game, and most notably, the information game is what Lion assists with. Everyone knows about this operator, even if you haven't played this game before. He's the man with the EE1D and a plan, and that plan is to find you and make it to where you can't move unless your name's Vigil, and since the defense doesn't have one of those, this could possibly be a pretty bad time for them.
I think this is like a pretty good choice from SSG, actually. There's been a lot of very awkward gunfights where players are like hesitating because they don't know the exact positions of their opponents or otherwise being forced out of otherwise safe positions. So I think in those chaotic moments, if the EE1D charge is leveraged right there, it could get a lot of very important info to SSG in the heat of the moment, you know, when you're at like 5 to 10 seconds left on the clock too. So that information could prove itself to be very, very useful if it ends up working.
I was writing down a note real quick as well. Did they actually end up 6 picking into this line? Okay.
Yeah,
all right. I was just assuming that they would.
They
yeah.
hit it.
Okay. Awesome. Well, what that means, and the reason that I was asking is because they could have played their mute jammers just a little bit more defensively if they knew that the Lion was coming. But Lion is an operator that we really never see once again, unless it's Coastline. So more than likely not prepared for that first EE1D charge to go off, and that's what SSG want to utilize. They want to utilize this very first one to catch TSM off guard. We might see it right now. Here it comes off rip. Standing outside of the bathroom, but nothing comes of it. Still got a good drone game going on. Falls with the initial kill. On to achieve. That's the Jaeger already off the board.
The DMR as well there for the Lion, trying to hunt down the player on the inside right now. Oh, a nice find from the IQ. Does catch a player hiding out underneath. That's going to be Bolo on the pulse right here. Pre-fire also going on to Merc. That was the great drone intel that had gone onto him. You could see he was hunting out drones on the inside of Living Room just a few moments ago, and as such, they expect him to be pre-aimed on that window, and they get about half the HP off of him from the 2 shots that connect. Bosco takes some heat as well, but he's outside, so he's in a much safer position still.
We're getting down to a minute now, and SSG is going to feel slightly rushed. Bolo finally picking up a kill, and that's a huge one. Bosco now down. Those last 2 remaining EE1Ds are not going to be able to be used. Canadian also down and dusted as well, but the trades ensue. What else would you expect between these 2 squads? 3 versus 3 for the time being, but that could change at any moment in time. Finally, some soft destruction going on from SSG upstairs. Rampy swinging that sledgehammer as many times as he possibly can, trying to find some vision and possibly some picks if it can follow through. Nice adjustment here on site from Chala to be able to maintain his life, but well, we might possibly have a kill. Frag grenade and deals just a tick of damage to Chala as this execution is still desperately needed.
Thinking in Fultz, looking to work their way through from tarps, the inside of Dining. They'll move their way in. They do catch that pre-placed nitro cell on the way forward. The player through it is probably long gone at this point. TSM initially picks off Fultz too on his attempt to re-swing back into the site. Oh man, they're just taking them out one by one here, as TSM is going to very quickly retake control of the site. Yes, SSG get in. Yes, they get the plant, but they barely are able to hold on as TSM pretty much immediately resumes control and takes control over the first round of their defensive half.
One of them threw a nitro cell on the floor right there. I'm very happy that he shot it. I'll just say that. Like that would have been the most unfortunate misclick I've ever seen in my entire life. All 3 of the members are just standing next to each other. You actually double press your secondary utility and blow everyone up, and then you lose the round. That would be very unfortunate, but not going to happen. So TSM headed towards Aviator Games this time around. Very nice defense from them on Kitchen. Delayed a lot of time. We're able to trade back and forth with SSG and keeping things on par. That's exactly what they needed to do while they waited for that execution. And they read perfectly into how SSG wanted to handle that, peeking into dining at very, very opportune times. Didn't even lose a single man inside of that 3v3.
Attackers need to locate.
All right, guys, so let's see how the next round's going to go here. TSM now with control, starting to feel a lot more confident with themselves probably as well here as they're going to inch closer and closer to enabling that third and final map now that they have control over the lead here. At the same time, SSG are not a team to lose a map without fighting if we've seen them at all so far in this series. So it's time for them to wake up, time for them to start responding to this. Get themselves back into the mix here, keep this game even. Otherwise, TSM could start to take control of things, especially on this site's defense over in Aviation and Games. As far as that defense is concerned, by the way, once again, got a lot of the same flair that we have seen in the past. The Goyo is an interesting mix of something that we don't always see. It's still a pretty common pick for defense on the site, though. From what I've seen, is it definitely adds quite a few shields and quite a bit of delay potential to the defenders that bring him to the table.
Especially in tandem with the echo and the smoke, there's so much delay at the hands of the defense here. Goyo shields actually last as long as the Toxic Babes of smoke, so they're 10 seconds each when they're popped. That's obviously a total of 20 seconds there, and then you put smoke on top of that with 30 seconds inside of his kit, and all of a sudden we have almost a minute's worth of time that you can possibly delay, all if chained. Remember, a lot of the times when it comes down to stuff, people rotate out and wait and then rotate back in, so that time gets even more when you add that.
Yeah, it gets elongated quite a bit. The only way to counteract it is to look for alternative angles to get into the site with and hopefully use that to drain out the utility a little bit quicker. Away from that, folks, I'm just going to continue to start ticking down here. I've already got a couple members of SSG to the inside of the building doing a north to south clear from the other two sites that we just played against over in Trophy and Statuary. Drone will clear out 90 here, so that'll be marked as clear for the SSG roster to start moving towards. Merc is very patiently waiting to see if he can get a pick against someone who would jump up onto the study window, but there's very little action happening in that direction at this point, as I'm sure you guys can tell. Also important to note here, too, SSG still have the IQ in check, which means that at least one of these operators, being played by Polo on the Echo, is not going to be able to utilize his utility as much as he wants to, especially off-site, as you just saw there, with one of them getting picked very quickly.
And this bad news bears for him. Having only one yokai means that preventability for the plant is going to be leaning more onto the nitro cells and the smoke of Chala. They're able to get that to work out. Only halfway through the round now as SSG's rounding 90 here. And they get the single panel. That's exactly what Canadian's going for. So could be quite an awkward take here as Bolo goes for the impact trick, and he's still going to have one more in his pocket as well. So again, they'll have to find alternative means.
Draining out a lot of utility and ADSs on the inside of the site, both on 90 and through the door leading into Aviation itself. The Goyo shield will also be taken out too, so that delay tactic is now gone from TSM's arsenal. SSG are very much at the gates, ready to execute here. And on top of that, Canadian is going to make another attempt in order to get the breach open. Bolo with the trick attempt, and it is successful once again. Both of the hard breaches now gone from Canadian, and they did not bring a second one. So no capability to get the walls open. They're just going to have to push it outright from the two main entrances.
Not the worst thing in the world for that second attempt, as they can still go for the gun vault plant, but TSM's ready for that one as well. They've already shifted sites inside of Study. They're also ready for Thinking Nade to hop inside. Merc shifting inside of here, preventing quite a lot of the SSG push. This is exactly what we expected from TSM on their map pick. Just bullying this offense of SSG. Not able to find too much space. Merc swings for a double and sadly gets knocked on his butt, but it's all going to be left up to Rampy. He's just going to hold some angles as SSG discusses this. Now TSM, 3 rounds in a row.
Yeah, unfortunately there, as we saw from what we saw from SSG, was their inability to scout out what was on the inside of Study due to the fact that they had barely contested it throughout most of that round. As far as I could tell, very little drone presence was there throughout the round, and as a result of that, Merc was left completely uncontested, just holding in there until finally he became relevant later on in the round, and it was a massive surprise to SSG, so he was free to just go off, picking up multiple kills, and for the most part, killing any chance that SSG would have had of making that round a success.
Jumping into round 9 now, though. Living room library picked up by the defense, the most unorthodox pick that you can possibly take here on Villa, one that we don't see too often, but we've definitely seen it before. We're also going to have the 6th pick for Bosco away from the Capital, picking up that Lion once again. We'll see if it's more effective this time around than it was the prior time that they ran it. They definitely need something to get this offensive engine running, because for right now, TSM is definitely running away with this.
Solid control on multiple sites, with multiple different disciplines as well here. They're going to work their way into the living room and the library next. Probably one of the hardest sites just due to how big it is. It's very hard to control either of them, most notably living room because of the play potential for the attackers, but some creative solutions that the defenders have come up with recently across multiple pro teams to be able to utilize that. There's going to obviously be the extended hold upstairs. A few other things the TSM might have up their sleeve too. Let's take a look at exactly what they're going to bring to the table here.
Well, TSM with this top hold, seemingly wanting to cause a lot of problems for SSG, picking up Merc on the Bandit as well to electrify these panels. And obviously, since there is no Thatcher, not going to be able to get rid of those all too easily. And they'd more than likely have to lean on Fultz for that, but they'd have to be in sight to be able to get rid of those. So they'd much rather just plant in that instance. Extended roam game here for Geo, but he'll hop immediately downstairs through the skylight all the way down to Red Hallway. We'll see if he can find some success as 2 drones coming inside of Kitchen. It seems as TSM knows exactly where this entry game is going to come through. Geo quickly scampering off towards the basement as he needs to play out his life.
30 seconds gone from the round, and we've got quite a few members of SSG looking to try and go for quick control of the inside of Kitchen. Rampy as well, keeping a drone downstairs, just in the event they are trying to utilize the pulse once again. It's been a very common thread for defenders on first floor sites for this map, and sometimes even second floor sites as well. They're not going to be able to find much at this point. There is presence down here in the form of Geo, going to be over here on the Mozzie. He'll get spotted out a few moments ago just there, but not going to immediately react to it. Not going to try and rotate away from it. Doesn't feel too dangerous. This is a pretty safe position he's got himself in, and SSG are going to really have to go out of their way to kill him. He kind of probably wants to invite them in to a certain extent. Geo's going to come out on top of the first fight when it finally blooms as well. There you go. That's the reason Geo wants to invite them in. He's got a lot of space to work with, a lot of room to dictate how these battles are fought. And if he can do this even for another 30 seconds or so, even if he doesn't get himself another kill, this is still an overall successful play from Geo.
This is more than successful, John. Look at the drone economy right now, what he's done to it all by himself. They finally find him, but it's going to take 2 EE1Ds. But all of a sudden, SSG jumps ahead in man count. Big pickup there from Canadian, who capitalizes off Achieve, getting a little too aggressive. Well, fake nitro cell there as Merc was trying to ping instead, but throws that on the ground, has to pick that back up. Still plenty of time for SSG to make this work, especially with this living room defense. Lots of room to be able to put a diffuser down, especially if they're able to isolate things out. Still plenty of guns up as well, only missing that 1 member of Fultz.
Canadian quickly wrapping himself into position to try and commit himself to the inside of the site, possibly going to take out the reinforcement just at the bottom of Red as well. There you go. They're going to try and open that back up. But oh no, here comes Bolo. He's going to be able to sneak up right on, but Canadian gets the better of it. Anyway, beautiful read by Canadian as he once again catches a player trying to sneak up on him. That's the second time this round that this has happened. SSG in a great position now. 4v2. They still have to deal with the player's back sight, though. TSM have been very, very sneaky, very, very hard to read in this aspect. You still have a player upstairs that I'm just now noticing, too. Merc continuing to hold on the inside of Gun Vault. He's got free vision onto the player with the diffuser at the moment, and he's just waiting it out, just wasting the time. He has to be careful, though, to make sure to not have that happen. Can't waste his opportunity to actually get the kill, and even worse, he's now lost his only other teammate downstairs that could have confirmed it. Rotates are coming in, but the plan's been revealed. He comes out on top of the initial fight. Can he deny the plant? No, it's already on the ground. Merc's now alone in the 1v3 and has to try and find a way to clutch it.
Trying times for him in this 1 versus 3 with the diffuser down, as you guys just heard. Fights his way in through gallery, has 2 inside of sight, but it's going to be quickly done and dusted by SSG. Hell of a round from them on offense, and just very unfortunate for Merc. What he was trying to do is he was trying to lean on timer there with that trigger discipline to let the timer continuously tick down, and once the plant started, he was going to let Troy get near the point of actually putting the diffuser down and then just kill him to extend that timer on and on, since obviously if the timer hits 0, the defense wins. So it was a really good read by Merc there. Just very unfortunate that Canadian rotated away.
Yeah, unfortunate, like I said there, that he wasn't able to catch him as he was starting to rotate out. That was part of the plan too. Obviously, if he walks too far away, hey, I'll just kill him. I got the kill anyway, but reacted just slightly too slowly in order to get the actual confirmation. And that's when things really started to go badly for TSM. Up until that point, they had a fight in that round with the capability to probably delay it down to 0 timer, not necessarily win out the 2v4. But once that diffuser had gone past, I think the moment to try and clutch out that round had also passed for the TSM roster. That's going to bring SSG back into the game, though, after a long streak of rounds from TSM. SSG are still behind by 1. But keep in mind, they have the series advantage with 3 more rounds in their pocket. They take this map and the series along with it, knocking TSM out of this game and of this tournament.
Out of the whole shebang. They can't do any more stuffs or things.
Whole major.
They have to go home, even though they're already home. They just have to get up out of the chair. That's really it. If you really think about it.
They gotta go and watch the stream. That's what they gotta do.
Honestly, if I were them, I don't even know if I'd watch the stream after that. I don't know. I'm gonna be really honest. Like this stuff is very, very important to these people. Very, very important. I think you guys saw that yesterday. I don't know if anybody notated it or saw it, but if you guys saw the cameras after SSG ended up winning, you guys saw Rampy just with his head down, running his hands through his hair. You could tell the amount of stress that man was going through, and he was finally able to take the earbuds out, the headset off, and take a breath for the first time in a very, very long while. I can tell you, just sitting from my seat and watching these guys play, I can always feel that nervous knot in my gut when these things start to lean towards one side. Drones now in play, though, for SSG as they need to drone out this kitchen area. It seems like it might be a hard execute here as Canadian jumps immediately into pantry. They've got some different ideas, but obviously Bolo already on site with that cardiac sensor. They get the single panel, so they'll actually have some vision in here. I really like this setup here from SSG. That single panel allows access, or at least vision, in through kitchen, specifically to where Chala is playing. It's going to make it a lot more difficult to be able to prevent plants.
Bit of a risky move from Canadian, but it pays off in order to get the wall open and open up a new angle of play here for SSG to hopefully get themselves into a position to execute early, which has been part of the problem for both of these teams, of the capability for the defenders, you know, as usual, the meta dictates it right now, to delay down basically until 0 timer here. Once again, we can see the pulse being found out by the IQ. He's got to be careful of the fire back in the form mainly of a nitro cell, though, so he's going to back away from that angle relatively quickly and put himself within the relative safety of the master bathroom shower.
And TSM has a lot of artillery on the board, and you do not want to be on the receiving end of any of that. 4 nitro cells that could possibly find their mark, and we already have assumingly 1. Actually, no. Different kind of explosive going off on the other end of the map. It seems to be a frag grenade from Rampy that ended up exploding. Very first nitro cell hits its mark, takes down Rampy. The sledge is off the board. It's up to the rest of the members to try and break up this flooring. And with only a minute remaining, SSG not in the best spot.
Certainly not going to be able to easily come back from that deficit, especially if they continue with the slower paced play. Like Stokes had brought up, though, they do have that additional angle to work off of downstairs. So they're not completely out of this one just yet. But once again, losing out on Rampy without much positioning elsewhere, and overall having to fight back from the 4v5 is definitely not the optimal situation for SSG right now, especially with the very explosive nature they've brought to the table for their executes. Here comes Canadians' attempt to open up the wall. It should go off without a hitch here. Both Gio and Bowler are going to get pushed back as well due to the additional pressure coming in from SSG on the top-down clear there. It also happened at pretty much the exact same time they were looking to open the wall. 20 seconds remaining, so execute should be coming up at any moment here. But again, the lack of intel is really going to come back to haunt these guys right now, mainly because, again, they haven't had the opportunity to explore it. 1-for-1 exchange. SSG find themselves another one. Bosco gets it. Do they have enough time in order to leverage it, though? Still 2 players alive for TSM. They've got the diffuser in their hands. Fultz is going to go for a plant. Unfortunately, fails to realize Bolo just on the other side of the room, who will quickly take him out when he tries to go for the plant. And as such, TSM take the round, get themselves up on the map point.
Oh, that might have been one of the most unfortunate things. Earlier on, we talked about that Twitter account, you know, unfortunate events. That might be the best one that I've seen, where I'm going to go put a diffuser down and you see Pulse just laying next to the couch. Very, very unfortunate there for the offense of SSG, but beautifully done by Bolo. Nice little spot to find himself in. Very low HP as well, and that's exactly the opposite situation you want if you're going to take a gunfight. So you'd much rather try and play something cheeky. Ends up working out for him. Maybe your games now for TSM as they try to close out Villa. SSG is going to have to be perfect throughout these next 2 rounds if they want to close it out in 2.
Do or die time now for SSG to try and find themselves at least one more round here to try and get them back into the fold. 2 would make it OT, as Stokes had just mentioned there. So let's see if they're going to be able to get this done. TSM continue to rotate their defense around. They're back up to aviation and games now. One of the more traditional sites, of course, that we've come to expect. SSG definitely came close to success the last time they attacked this one, but ultimately left a couple pieces of TSM's defense completely untouched up until the very end of the round. Most notably, Merc was hiding out on the inside of Study. And as a result of that, we're able to surprise the attack from SSG, which had to use Study as a last-second rotate. Took out the large majority of their push and left them without enough manpower in order to make sufficient enough progress to win out that round.
Well, I will give SSG this. No matter what, if there's still a man alive, they're going to attempt a plant. They attempt it almost every single round, unless obviously you're able to kill the entire roster before then. But almost every single one of these rounds coming down to somebody attempting a plant and dying. So very impressive stuff by them, but they need to be able to pick up these rounds. That's the thing. It's the initial entries that they've been pretty good on, but the time waste from TSM seems to continuously work out here. This is exactly why this is their map pick.
Round has begun. SSG out on the board, and it's looking like a north-south clear is on the agenda once again for them, as they've got quite a few players working their way over into Master and Astro right about now. Drones are also being thrown out. Think Nate and Canadian are on that duty, clearing things out up through the connector into Split and over to top red, where once again you're not going to find much from a roam game here from TSM, not at this point anyway. They focus on much different points on the map. Even 90 is only going to be defended by Geo, and he can more than likely rotate away from this if things get too hot. Doesn't necessarily have a lot of support for himself in that position. May have 1 or 2 discs to eat up the nades, but without a reinforced shield or anything else, he's going to be a bit exposed should SSG try to swing against him.
Amazing drum game here from TSM. I don't believe that they know Achieved is here just yet, but Bosco going to set up that camera in case Achieved wants to rotate to hop out of the bathroom window. That's what he's worried about right now. This is something that SSG is known for with their drones, especially on this map, actually. I've talked to quite a few people that renowned SSG for that drone game and their ability to hide these things and get intel in areas that seemingly is impossible. So once again, finding a lot of information here, and this could lead to the demise of TSM, but it's actually going to be Fultz to die first, and that's a very nice down and find from Bolo, the bearing 9 through the floor. And Chief confirms it with a nitro cell, as Bolo knows exactly what he's done. That's going to be the IQ gone.
Roam clear seems to remain an issue here for SSG, even though it was the exact opposite of this on the previous map. Having a lot of issues dealing with the extended game right now for TSM, and this includes just being able to drone out appropriate positions. Drone economy is constantly being drained from SSG there. TSM are doing a fantastic job of denying all that intel and keeping themselves in good positions to find impact against SSG, and at minimum waste time if they're not able to pick up kills. But so often we've seen it be kills just like this. Achieved able to rotate back to a further position. Rampy swings out, is not expecting Achieved to be there, and as such, Achieved gets himself another pick.
Sadly, there's a lot of things that got to go right here for SSG if they still want to dog in this fight, and that's a good start. Take down Bolo as they start the plant for the vault. No more nitro cells to be able to prevent. It's only going to be Toxic Babes as they're trying to stack him to kill Canadian. Is it going to go through? It is. Canadian also getting out alive. Very impressive stuff. Now down into the post plant with this 3 versus 3 is completely doable. They're going to have somebody try and stick the plant here and wait for the swings. He's already halfway through the timer. They have to get here, but the kill's already coming through. Chala coming in big, and that's exactly what they needed. The most clutch player on TSM secures the round needed for them to close out Villa. Ladies and gentlemen, we are headed to Coastline.
It's going to go the full distance, ladies and gentlemen, as TSM will take solid control over map number 2 here on Villa. That comfortable pick. And